Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Scott McKinley. And hey, Scott, it was a better game on Friday as we prepare for a very hot team and Baylor this coming weekend. But always excited to get your thoughts. It's always like 4 or 5 days after. It's always very level-headed. So it's always kind of the sense of reason that I need to hear. So jump in.
Well, my first thought for this week was at least we're going to have something this week that is positive to talk about. You know, I mean, because it felt like for the last few weeks, I mean, we were grasping at straws to find anything that was positive. Now, obviously, we still didn't come out with a win. That last play was as heartbreaking of a loss as we've had. Although, I mean, if you've been around Oklahoma State football for a while, this is not the first time that's happened. You know, and it is funny to me though when you think about it that seems to happen to us a lot. You know, I'm sure every fan base in America has got games like that happen to them. So we've
won so many of these games.
Yeah,
remember Texas throwing the interception in the end zone and overtime and all that.
Yeah. I remember beating A&M one time on a last-second field goal. I mean, that kind of stuff happens. But I mean, the other thought that went through my head is, man, how many things can go wrong in a season? You know, I mean, it's like we finally got something going on offense. Rangel was doing very well. Now, did he play perfect? No. I mean, that first throw that he made was atrocious.
He played like a young quarterback that has no experience that's trying to prove himself, right?
Right, exactly.
That has an aggressive mindset. That's how he played to me.
Yeah, exactly. But we had found something with getting our quarterback involved in the run game. Ollie was getting going. The defense, and we talked about this in the pregame show that the defense needed to create some turnovers. Well, they did that.
They did.
That was definitely a positive. But frankly, we just came up. We were 10 seconds shy of getting a win, which, and Mike Gundy has said this before, and he's absolutely right. We live in a pass-fail system in college football. Unfortunately, we failed. But at the same time, I saw some good plays made by some guys, saw some really bad plays as well. I'm sure we're going to get into that as well. But overall, I got to appreciate the effort. The other thought that I had when you look at grand scheme of things is how crazy is the Big 12 right now? Today, we are in last place. And frankly, we were within a few seconds of beating the team that's in first and is undefeated. That's how wild the Big 12 is this year. So those are my initial thoughts.
Defense obviously just has to get better. I mean, the results of the defense just are not acceptable at this point in time. But honestly, if you go back and you chew on film and you evaluate film, most of the time they're canceling the right gaps. They're in the right positions. They're in position to make plays, but then like either they get pinned inside and then the runner gets outside, or a defensive end gets fanned and then they cut up underneath them, or a safety comes up on a cutback play and just leaves their feet and just completely whiffs and plays no leverage on a tackle. So it's one of those deals. I know Oklahoma State fans are probably going to throw their phone or whatever they have in their hand at the screen when they hear this, but it's honestly a situation to where the guys are usually in the right positions. They're just stupid little small fundamentals that lead to big mistakes.
Yeah, that one of the things that I've always said is, everybody wants to, when we talk about recruiting and everything else, well, of course, we want fast guys, right? Well, who doesn't, right? But at the same time, fast only matters if you're in the right position to begin with. If you're 10 yards out of position, I really don't care how fast you are. It doesn't matter. And unfortunately on defense, it's one of those things where you can do things right 98% of the time, but the 2% of the time that you don't, and you get trapped inside when you really needed to stay outside and maintain contain or something like that they can hit you for a long one. So I mean, it's kind of
especially a team with Jake Retzloff at the helm, and then LJ Martin was back, and they all had all the receivers back. They were so experienced. A team like that's going to take advantage of every mistake you make.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's like I don't. When Gundy says that he doesn't think we're that far away, I believe that. The problem is, the problem is eventually you've got to make that step to where we're not that far away. Becomes we're there.
Yes. We're getting closer to being there. We're still not getting closer.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. So no, I got to give credit where it's due with the defenses. We said that they needed to create some turnovers, and they did that. That this is not. We don't have a defense that I don't think that for the rest of the season we're not going to be able to just shut teams down. That's not. We got to deal with reality. But at the same time, hey, if we can create some turnovers, you know what, we can win these games. The talent level in the Big 12, as we said, is so close. Guys, it doesn't take much. It's still, and I know people are going to say I'm crazy, it is still not inconceivable that Oklahoma State could win out. We also could lose out. Yeah. Literally either one of those possibilities is still in play. That's just how crazy this season is. Now, do I think that for us, the possibility to win out is very less likely? Yeah, that's less likely. For a host of reasons. One, man, we're starting to really get piled up on injuries right now. And it's not just injuries to guys. Okay, well, the second string might have been as close to the first string. No, we got guys like Nick Martin, Trey Rucker was out, Colin Oliver's been out. It's impact players that we're missing as well. So it's just that's not a good combination, but got to appreciate the fight that at least the guys had on Friday night, almost Saturday morning.
Yeah, you talk about the injuries, and hey, these are excuses, and excuses don't matter. You have to have next man up. When you're at Oklahoma State, injuries don't matter. You have to figure out how to overcome them with the next guy. That's my biggest complaint with Coach Gundy, is if he wants to use the injury, well, one of my biggest complaints is that if you want to use the injury excuse, then recruit better. That's where the lack of recruiting to me comes in the most. Yeah, we get a Colin Oliver. Yeah, we get a Nick Martin. Yeah, we get a Trey Rucker, but what do you have behind them? That's where your recruiting comes in as far as your depth goes. I think you could probably use the transfer portal behind that. Although Parker Robertson had a really nice game. He had the interception. Obi Ezigbo has made some nice plays, but still, when you lose Colin Oliver, I say all that to say, Colin Oliver on the front line, you lose Nick Martin on the second level, you lose Trey Rucker on the third level. Those are three hugely impactful players that, regardless of trying to have the next man up mentality, it's still very difficult to replace those guys.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Another thought that I'd had is, you remember when we had the massive portal exit year? It was just a couple years ago. I wonder if we're still seeing some of the after effects from that.
Shouldn't be, not with the transfer portal.
Shouldn't be if you're using it right, and that's like we said before. Is the thing with the portal is it can decimate a team. We saw that. That's what I'm saying in 2022. But it also, you can get good really fast if you utilize the portal to your advantage.
You can definitely get solid and deep. You can go get depth. Like Oklahoma State's used the portal at running back to add depth with Elijah Collin and Trent Howland, right? You can at least, that's kind of my point, is you can have a fourth-year Division I player from Indiana backing you up at safety behind a Trey Rucker if he gets injured, something like that. You could add depth, like a Kobe Hilton's perfect example.
Yeah, because really, when you look around the teams that are at the top, nobody these days, the model of bringing in a high school kid and he stays at your university for 4 years and you develop him, nobody's going to win championships like that nowadays. That's just the reality. And how much of that have we been slow to react? Do I think that's a part of it? Yes. That's my honest opinion. I think we've been slow to react to that. The train has left the station. We've got to get on it. So
yeah. I'm saying, and that problem, if you say we're slow to react to that transfer portal, who does that fall on? Whose shoulders?
It starts at the top. It starts with Coach Gundy and the recruiting philosophy. A lot of people want to throw out NIL and all that kind of stuff. And I think all OSU fans would agree with this, that when you're playing up against a team like, let's take Texas. Texas has got so much money, it's not even funny. We all know that. Everybody recognizes it. We understood. We didn't like it when we got beat pretty bad in the Big 12 championship, but we understood why that happened.
Yeah.
The thing I think that's frustrating, at least me as a fan, is there's nobody in the Big 12 that's like that anymore. Is there's nobody out there that's just got massive amounts of resources that nobody else does. Now, granted, at the same time, it's, as we said before, that does mean from a resource standpoint, you can kind of take them, you can pull a name out of a hat, you might get your conference champion because they're all very, very similar. But at the same time, guys, we've got the resources to compete. We've got the facilities to compete. We've had enough recent success that we should be competing. and my hope is that this is just a 1-year aberration. We still, we've played, what was it, the last 2 out of 3 years we played for the Big 12 championship. We're not that far removed from having success. But I do think that in order to move forward, we're going to have a change in philosophy. And that does start at the top with Coach Gundy.
So moving forward right now, you're saying change of philosophy, not changing coach, right?
Right. Yeah. No. I think Mike Gundy is safe, and he should be safe. I think he's earned the right to make the changes that are necessary. Now I will say I do think I would say everybody else on the coaching staff. I think there's possibility we could see I'll say the biggest changes in coaching staff under Mike Gundy's tenure. I would say that.
Yeah.
But I think that's possible.
And in the world of coaching, you're hired to be fired. And when you take a job at Oklahoma State that has expectations, that you either produce or you get fired. I mean, it's literally that simple. So you make a lot of money to produce. If you don't, then it's just business. I mean, it's that simple. And we both love the human beings that are in the positions, but again, you make a lot of money, you get hired to do a job. If the results aren't what the fans want, what Coach Gundy wants, it is what it is.
Yeah, and the other thing that I also thought about, particularly now, I'm going to zero in with Coach Nardo, but this could apply to a number of the hires that Mike Gundy has made over the years. Is there's no doubt Mike Gundy has done an excellent job over the years at finding coordinators. He can find that diamond in the rough. You can go down the list of the guys that he's brought in. And that's a little bit unconventional for what most coaches would do. You want to, if you're going to be an offensive or defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State, you would expect to have maybe some smaller Division I school experience. Maybe you were a head coach at a smaller level. You've had that type of pedigree. When you bring in a guy like Coach Nardo, that his experience was at Gannon University.
Yes.
So that's great if it works, because man, you got a diamond in the rough. You maybe the pay isn't quite as high as what another coach would demand if he had that pedigree. But at the same time, that's risky, because now, okay, what evidence do we have that Coach Nardo is going to be a good Division I defensive coordinator? Don't really have it. There's no pedigree behind that. So basically, what I'm saying, all of that is to say that basically when something like this happens, the criticism is going to come even harder and even faster. And I think that's unfortunately what I think we're kind of living through right now.
So I guess my pushback to that would be, what defensive coordinator could Oklahoma State go get that you could prove would be a very good Division I coordinator at this point?
I think basically what I would look for is somebody that has had experience, because as we said before, there's a different skill set in being able to call plays on offense, call defenses, than there is necessarily being able to coach D line, right. Coaching a position. Basically, I would go after somebody at a smaller, maybe a smaller D1 school that has been a defensive coordinator, that has had to make those calls. And if Gundy wants to stay with going with still trying to find a diamond in the rough, okay, find a D2 guy, but make sure he's had to call plays and has done so. Again, philosophy matters, schematics matters, recruiting matters. That's not the only variable that's involved in the process. But I do think the fact that you need somebody that has done it at a somewhat higher level, I think would be the prototype I would go after. Now, again, that all depends on, okay, how much money is available? Is the guy willing to make the jump? Is he going to get along with the staff? There's all kinds of other variables to go into that as well. So
just glad we didn't fire Jim Knowles after 2 years, after his first 2 years that weren't good at OSU. There's a lot of premature to that, man. I'm not trying to defend this defense. It's been terrible for 2 years, right? Yeah. I'm not trying to make a defense. What I am trying to say is that there could have been a case to fire Jim Knowles too after his second year at OSU, easily.
Yeah.
For the first year and a half, his defenses were terrible here. It just seems like a little bit, and I know this is a what have you done for me lately society, but this just seems like it's a little bit too much to me.
Yeah.
2 years. 2 years, and one of them was in the Big 12 championship game, and you did somewhat, as games went on, play complimentary football and play better in the second half and that kind of thing, and allow the offense to kind of dictate the game and control the game late in games last year. The numbers didn't look great, but there was a lot of complimentary football to both the offense and defense in 2023. 2024 has been terrible. It just seems like 2 years to me is too quick to know exactly how it's going to turn out.
I think you're right, but I also think that the furor of the fans is I think it's going to be too much to overcome.
But is that what Mike Gundy means when he says, I don't care what the fans think?
I think personally, I know he doesn't care what the fans think. I have absolutely no doubt on that one. But I also think, I have no doubt on that. But I also think it's one of those things that if you have enough furor from the fans and I'll say the influential alumni, I think that pressure is, as much as Mike Gundy would like to pretend that doesn't exist, it exists. It does. Yeah. I mean, that's a reality, because you may be absolutely totally correct that, if we'd have given Nardo one more year, okay, things might be getting turned around and we might have found the next Jim Knowles. But I think it's going to be very, very difficult with this season. I'll say that I'll say this. I think it's going to be difficult after this season for there to be no changes on the staff.
I would agree. I would totally agree.
There's going to be changes. We just don't know what they're going to be yet.
Unless the last 4 or 5, let's say the last 5 games are just stellar. You know, like if the offense continues to play like it did Friday, and then the defense somehow leaps and matches, and then by the end of the year, the defense is looking just like the offense, and they're back to the odd stack, and they're creative blitzing, and they're turning the ball over, they're starting to cover better, not giving up big plays, tackling better, and we go, dang, man, this defense really turned a corner. And he's last, kind of like it did in Jim Knowles' second year, where it started turning that corner the second half of his second year at OSU. Is there a world to where that could happen?
I think it can. I mean, as hard as it is to say, I saw some improvement on Saturday on Friday night. I mean, there were some things there were good things that were happening. We just got to we needed one more stop. I mean, literally, you think about it. If we get one more stop, we're having a totally different show.
But we didn't.
But we didn't. I mean that's,
and we weren't close. I mean, that last possession, did we never? I mean, I guess we got them to a 4th down, but the last pass, it just felt like, okay, we missed 3 tackles, but okay, we tackle them at the 12. They're just going to score on the next play. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. Well, the one that got me was when he got loose for, what was it, the 27, 30-yard scamper, which ironic. It's amazing how history repeats itself. We were kind of in the exact same situation last year, but the difference is all they had to do is kick a field goal. It's interesting. If BYU would have been only down 3 this time, would they have played it differently? Just get it into field goal range. It's funny. You never know. Hindsight's 20/20. You never know those eventualities. But that was something that kind of struck me the other night. That it's sometimes we think something's an advantage and sometimes it's not because of the way that the other team played it. But no, once he got that long run, I kind of really thought this isn't looking too good. But
another one of those where Jeff Robertson was. It was a good job. I mean, it was a good scheme. He drops to 12 yards. He kind of plays a little zone pocket there. And then he also has eyes on quarterback. So if Fretzloff scrambles, the goal right there is you just rally up, you tackle him for 10 to 12 yards. You run him out of bounds, and then there's still, if Jeff Robertson makes that, and I love Jeff Robertson. If you follow my social media, he's maybe my favorite player on OSU. He is exempt from, in my opinion, he's exempt from whatever criticism you want to give this defense. Don't lay it on Jeff Robertson. That dude just lays it on the line every game. So when I say this, I'm just stating facts. I'm not trying to throw shade on him. But point blank, he missed a tackle. And that's a tackle that Coach Nardo is expecting him. What he's expecting him to do is just funnel him to the sideline, right? And just use the sideline as the 12th defender and just get him out of bounds. And now they have just a few amount of seconds to go basically half the field. So, that's one of those plays where it was schemed up well. You have the zone pocket covered. You also have the spy. You rally on it. Just simply didn't execute, and that was a backbreaker.
Yeah. That's, it's one of those things on defense. You can have the exact right scheme. You can have the exact right play call. You know what? Guy gets, we get the tackler in position, but he misses a tackle. It happens sometimes, but that's football. It doesn't count till you get him on the ground. That's all it is.
Bottom line is, though, whether you have them in a position or not, if they don't tackle, it is what it is. The other team is still scoring. So it all works together. You can't say, hey, we're in the right position, but we didn't tackle, so it's not my fault. The kids have to know. All of it comes back to you because you're the one. That's why they call it a coordinator. You're coordinating the whole thing, and tackling is part of that coordination.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's you know, at the end of the day, I mean, it's the coordinator's responsible for making sure that we're good at tackling. You know, but I will tell you, I've seen guys, you know, on Friday nights in the fall that they're good tacklers, and you know what? They just slipped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, a hand just slipped off. His hand just slipped off a guy and just couldn't quite get a hold of enough jersey to pull him down.
So leaving the feet and just diving at people and just whiffing like that. That's just a bad look, Coach.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. It's no different. Like, you know, to use a baseball reference, that, you know, it's you're going to strike out in baseball. That's a part of the game. But if you strike out because you swung at 3 straight pitches in the dirt, that's a different. You know, that's a different story.
Hey, let's move on to the offense. It's just an enigma with Casey Dunton. We know he's capable. We know that the brain is there. So why does the Wi-Fi buffer so much with this guy? I mean, why is it that we get terrible, great? You know, then we get great, then all of a sudden the Wi-Fi buffers, and I mean, we're just going, what the hell, man?
So, you know, one thing that I think about is if you have an immobile quarterback back there, and you got Ollie Gordon, and that's all you got in the backfield. Anything they know exactly who to key on. There's no doubt the quarterback is absolutely no threat to pull the ball. You know, but one of the things what I saw on Friday night is, okay, one, Rangel's able to run the ball, so that adds another runner. Okay, then we can get Brennan Presley back there or put him in motion.
Yes.
You know, or the other option is Valahi. He's also another, and I forget the other kid. He's
Rodney Fields.
Fields, yeah.
Fields. He's a stud, man.
Yeah, he's also a threat. So it's one of those things where, to me, we were very, very one-dimensional when you got Ollie only back there with Bowman, and then you throw in those other options we just mentioned. Now, all of a sudden, the defense doesn't exactly know who to key on, and it opens up a wide array of opportunities and looks that we can give them. So that's what I saw that was good on Friday night.
Yeah. I think a couple things happened to Oklahoma State, and specifically Casey Dunn this year. I think he thought the offensive line would be better in terms of like being able to handle blitzes, backside 9 techs, trying to crash mess points. He thought Alan Bowman, if the other team did stack the box, I think he thought Alan Bowman was good enough to beat them through the air. So yeah, go ahead and key on Ollie. We're going to throw for 500 yards, right? We've got all these great receivers. We got a 7th-year quarterback. We got Brennan Presley. We got all these guys. We got every type of receiver. We're going to beat you in the passing game. I thought he thought this offense could do both of those things, and neither one of them happened. And so then you get about 5 or 6 games in, and you're like, wow, I didn't expect this. Now we have to change, and you're like, let's just try to survive until we get to the off week to where we can actually change what we're doing based on not being able to do what we thought we were going to be able to do. Did any of that make any sense?
Yeah. No, we would assume that Alan Bowman could beat an 8-man box because we've got so many good receivers. They're going to be able to get open. I mean, they're great route runners. We got very, very good receivers at Oklahoma State. So no, all of that's logical. I think it's just a matter of that we're slow to react to realize that the reality was that the offensive line wasn't going to be as good at run blocking as we had hoped, and the teams were able to key on Gordon because there was no other threat coming out of the backfield. I mean, that he had a target on his back the size of Dallas. So to me, that's the whole deal. Is if we just get something else back there where they can't completely key on Ollie, good things can happen. So, I mean, I'm hoping to see more. I mean, again, I think that's the sad thing is because, again, if we could have pulled out the victory on Friday night, this is we're looking at this totally differently because there were some good things. We just weren't good enough to win. One of the things I posted right after the game, my initial take was, unfortunately, our offense played well enough to win Friday night.
Yes.
I mean, that's the reality. They played well enough to win, but we got to finish it. Just got to finish.
Yeah. Bottom line is, if you have one less point than the other team, you're the first loser.
Yep.
And that's just the bottom line of Division I athletics. Whether you lose by 1 or yes, now we can say, hey, we looked better, everything. But bottom line is, we still lost 4 games in a row. We're still 3. No, actually, we're 1-4 because I don't count even the Tulsa and South Dakota State games. Whatever. I mean, if you can't win those games, you're in big trouble. So really, of the games that to me are losable, explainable, losable, right? Now, I can understand South Dakota State could come in here and do something. North Dakota State beat K-State 10 years ago. I get it. But it's happened like once or twice in 500 years of college football, right? So that shouldn't happen. So to me, Oklahoma State's 1-4. So bottom line is I mean, yeah, better. Yeah, looked better. Yes, you still lost by 1, which means you were the first loser, and that's exactly how college football works.
Yeah. That's and but at the same time, and I know this is different. It's got to be difficult for the players, but at the same time, we got to move on. We got Baylor coming up this weekend. They're playing a little bit better than what they were earlier on in the season. But again, it's another opportunity that we could go down there and get a victory. And if there is anybody that is good about getting players mentally, to move on to the next one, Mike Gundy is very good at that. So that's my hope for this week.
I got a question, though. This is probably going to be the last thing we talk about here. I think it's pretty obvious to see the skills of Garrett Rangel, right? I mean, the guy's a good runner. He has a really live arm. He's very aggressive. If you talk to anybody who's ever been around him, he has mad leadership skills. I mean, this guy is a really good leader. So, A, why did it take him so long to actually get any significant playing time at Oklahoma State? And B, why did it take 3 years on campus to actually get a game plan in place that matches his physical skills that allows him to show how good he could be? Why does it take this long?
I don't know. I mean, because here's the other thing I would look at is, yes, we want to have one quarterback. As we've said many times, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you have none. But at the same time, there are certain schemes, there are certain defenses where having that mobility back there, boy, that is a huge deal. And like you said, the leadership ability that he's got, that's the part I think that's unexplainable. I think that we, obviously it'd be I think Gundy takes the same thing, like where the attitude, like you were talking earlier with the coordinators, that, okay, we don't want to pull the trigger too quick. Yeah. But the other thing I would say is, okay, we already saw some of this in the Utah game where we had to pull Bowman. Okay, unless you felt like that issue,
unless you had a different package that could suit Rangel, that makes no sense. Don't go out and have Rangel run Alan Bowman's plays, is my point, right?
Exactly, because here's the reality. Even let's say that Bowman was playing well, even he's lighting up Utah, whatever. You're one play away from an injury where you're going to have to put your backup guy in. Yes, you better have some plays designed to okay, we like the scheme that fits his skill set. That's the reality of football. Is you've got to have a backup plan because things are going to change in football. I think wasn't it General Patton that said that planning is everything. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. Yeah. That's again another thing that's unexplainable to me. But
unbelievable, just the luck of Oklahoma State that you lose both of your young quarterbacks that were in position to play in the same week to season-ending situations. We've known about the Zane Flores deal for quite a while. Just unbelievable luck in this season to lose both of those guys in the same week, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's like I said. What else can? That's what I thought Friday night. What else can go wrong in this season? Because man, I mean, it just has. And we, as OSU fans, I don't want to use the term spoiled. I'm going to use the term lucky. We've been very lucky.
We're spoiled. We're spoiled.
But we haven't had a season. Yeah. But we haven't had a season like this in a very, very long time. We've had seasons where, okay, we're slightly disappointed, didn't quite finish like we wanted. Okay, every fan base has those. But it's been a really long time since we had one like this where everything just, for lack of a better term, just kind of cratered. So my thinking to OSU fans, you know what? We're taking one down. It is what it is. Let's continue to support the team. Let's continue to go to games. If anybody's got some cheap homecoming tickets, I need some.
Yes.
I've got some
I'll
friends.
I'll have one for you.
Yeah. I've got some friends I'm taking to an OSU football game for the first time, and I want to show them a good time and show them what homecoming's all about. Maybe we create some new OSU fans in the future. So, my hope is let's go down to Baylor. Let's get a win this week, and hopefully we're having nothing but positives to say on the next one of these shows.
Yeah, those wrecks. You go off the shoulder and off the road on the right side, and then you overcorrect, and you end up actually crashing, going across the road, and you're on the ditch on the other side because you pulled the steering wheel too tight and you lost control of the vehicle that way. Instead of just trying to steadily right that car and get it back on the road a little bit at a time. Maybe that's too old-fashioned to me, but I just worry about that knee jerk, and I just know every time that you go to firing people, that's the easy part of things. But it's just a complete reset with recruiting. It's a complete reset on the roster. It's a complete reset in teaching kids all a new scheme and how to play fast with all the new terminology and all the new scheme. It's just way more difficult than I think most fans realize to bring in a new guy. So it has to be a guy that is so much more significantly better that it's worth all of the difficulties that we just mentioned there, right?
Yeah, no, it's not as simple as, well, okay, I like his scheme slightly better than the previous guy. But again, there's a whole lot of variables that go into being a coach at this level. It's not just, yes, you got to be able to motivate your guys. You've got to understand scheme. And some of it is almost an art form. I mean, sometimes I feel like play calling as a general deal. Sometimes it just comes down to, all right, this feels like the right thing to do here. Okay, and some guys are right, some guys are not. And what's interesting to me is you can have two guys and both of them take a risk at the right time, but one called just the right play and the other one just didn't. I mean, that's the reality of it.
It is.
So
there's winners and losers in competitive athletics, and that's part of what I like about it, right? Yeah. I mean, everything you do should be to win to lose in my world. So, Hey, Scott, this has been another fascinating conversation. I love talking to you because I love listening to the rational side of this. The fandom in me kind of gets to bounce off somebody who can absorb that and give some rational thoughts. So that's super fun for me to get to talk to you every week. So thanks a lot. Do you have any final thoughts?
Final thought is just we just got to keep plugging away and hopefully let's go Pokes. Let's go try to beat Baylor.